The difference between making and creating is the difference between illusion and reality. Reality is the love which is God. It is the Creator's will to extend love. You were created out of the will of the Creator, and therefore your will to express love is the will of God. They are one and the same. Hello friends, in this video we'll be talking about lesson 6 in the Way of Knowing, and this is the third book of the Way of Mastery, or the Christ Mind trilogy. And these books are by Jayem, or John Mark Hammer, in which he channels Jeshua, or Jesus. In lesson 6, Jeshua describes the difference between making and creating, or how he uses these words. And he says it's essential to know the difference of these two. For he says we are created to create, not to make, and making is all of the ego and of fear. So what is the difference? Making requires the special efforts of the egoic mind. Making involves planning what one wants based on what one already knows, and then setting about to find the way to bring it into being according to one's own ideas. Making always has an element of fear, since the ego itself is the fundamental contraction of fear. Creating, in the way that I'm using these terms, is quite different. When I say that you were born to create, you were created to create, I mean that being made in the Creator's image, your only function is to serve as a conduit through which the unfathomable mystery and beauty of love can be expressed in ways that can be seen in this world. You are in the act of extending creation whenever you surrender your own ideas of what a thing is or is for, and choose only to do what you do in order to enjoy the presence of love and the offering of that love to whomever or whatever will receive it. So making is more of a forcing things into the way you think they should be. And creating is surrendering and allowing the perfection of God's will or Spirit's will or love's will to work through you. So you surrender, just become a conduit of that creation. And another way of distinguishing the two, he says, is from form and content. And in making, form is very important, how things look, the specifics of it. And with creating, the form doesn't matter, only the content matters. And the content is always love. So it's unconditional. So the conditions don't matter, the forms don't matter, only the content of love matters in that creating. So it can look however it looks, doesn't matter. Another distinguishing factor he shares is that ego, or that making, will always want to make love or try to make love. And that in creating, it knows that it doesn't make love, it simply abides in love. Love is. It is what it truly is, so it simply abides in it and shares it and extends it. It simply celebrates the reality that you're fully immersed in this love, because that is all there is. And that you are innocent and perfect just as you are. And that the form it expresses in is secondary. Making love requires others. Creating love, that is, extending love, requires nothing but your will, your willingness. This means that you are perfectly free and do not require, do not need, the world to show up in any certain form before you decide to be in love. And when you are in love, love will guide the expressions of form. And he says that's how simple it is. You will know in the moment, in each moment, exactly what to do, exactly how to express it, if you're abiding in this love. You will know what to create. And then he reminds us that God is in the present. The present is where God abides. So you will know if you are abiding in love, the will of God, because God is now. And when you're abiding in love, you're abiding in the present moment. Not dwelling on the past, not afraid of the future, which is all of the ego and of all of making. So creating isn't based on previous learning or fears of the future or projections of the future or desires of the future. It is simply in the moment, the present moment, where the will of love is communicated to you directly in the present. The peace of Christ, then, depends on your willingness to abide in the present for no other reason than to extend creation, to be one who receives love, acknowledges the presence of love, breathes love, and then allows it to flow through the body-mind, through the voice, through the handwritten word, through the wink of an eye, whatever it is. And then you're done with it and you're on to the next moment. The peace of Christ comes only to that mind that withdraws valuation from the past and the future and surrenders into the present, for only in the present can love be felt, known, and extended. Such a mind is a creator. And through that mind, the perfection of love's extension flows, without impediment, without obstacle, and without mistake. So he says it is essential to know the difference of making and creating. And he encourages us to observe our life and observe the difference of the two when we're doing one or the other. And he'll say, when you're making, you'll be suffering. You'll be striving. It'll be difficult. When you're creating, you'll feel joy. It'll be easy. You'll be in like a flow state. And it reminds us, whenever you get caught up and you find yourself getting caught up in the ego's loop or distractions or decisions and following that thread, the truth of your being never goes away. So it's always a choice away. You can always choose to go back immediately to the present moment and to the love that is here always, and that what you truly are. The reality of your being is never altered or changed in any way. You've just used time to lose awareness of what you really are. And the healed mind, the awakened mind, is one who decides and chooses the truth of itself, which is the following. I and my Father are one. Only love is real. I cannot possibly be a victim of what I see, since what I see is what I choose to see. And if I choose to see with the eyes of love, all I see is perfect innocence and the will of my Father clearly at work. The healed mind is simply one that rests in that simple reality. It has merely trained itself to always choose for the voice for love. That's all. He then says, if you want to be creating, always creating, you must first seek the kingdom of heaven. And then he kind of jokes around and says, what does that mean? And he describes, well, you need to sell all your belongings, you need to travel to Himalayas, you need to hike around the mountains looking for a cave for 15 years. And then once you find a cave, you need to meditate for another 15 years until you just figure it out just right. And all of that he's just saying sarcastically, and really then he comes to the truth of what you need to do, which is simply to decide and to choose. To choose the peace of God and to value it above everything else. Now ask within yourself, would I choose to experience what is unending, myself, as a creator or a maker? If you choose the path of the creator, then the first thing you need to do is to remember that creating is not the same as making. Creating involves seeking first the kingdom of heaven. Now what does that mean? You can simply turn the mind to the peace of God right where you are and accept it. And in that very moment, you will have gained what all the yogis in their caves have ever gained. What all of the Buddhas and Christ have achieved in their austerities. The kingdom is but a choice away. I choose now for the perfect peace of God. And just like that, you've achieved all that needs to be achieved, if you receive it. If you receive it. That is a theme that comes up a lot from spiritual texts, from yogis, from mystics, from poets. Really, we need to surrender, just receive this love, be willing to receive it, and kind of get out of our own way. I think it was Hafiz, maybe Rumi, who said something like, see, the kingdom is raining treasure down right now, or raining gold down from the kingdom, and all we must do is make a space for it. So all we must do is receive it. And he says another key to becoming a creator and not maker, and to choose to create, is to not strive, for striving is of the ego. Another way of saying this is to be allowing, or to allow. And these are one of the keys, he says, of the kingdom, right? The key number 3 is allowance. And he corrects a misperception of thinking of this allowance as passivity. He says it's not passivity. All it is turning within and asking, Father, what would you have me do? Becoming still and listening to the Creator's will, and allowing that will to work through you, so you become a conduit for love. And when the thought comes, you act on it. So you're not being passive, you immediately act on what you receive, what insight you receive, what impulse you receive from the Creator. And he gives some little examples, like whether that be to drive 30 miles to go hang out with a friend, or whether that be open a retreat center in Mexico. Whatever it is, you just do it, because you trust, and that's allowance. And he says allowance is a very powerful state of being because you resist nothing. And again, he says the difference of making and creating is very important. It's essential we know the difference, and that we choose to be creators and to create and not to make, and not to operate from the ego. And then he gives a little affirmation, which is to help you realize what to create means. I give this moment over for the will of my Father. I wonder how I could simply surrender into being the presence of one who has accepted the kingdom for him or herself. And then I'll see where it carries me in the next second. And then he goes on to talk about his famous quote of the meek shall inherit the earth. And he says what he meant by that. When I said the meek shall inherit the earth, it means that eventually there will be established as the pervasive quality of the human consciousness just this state of being. The world will be populated by creators who arise in the morning going, "The day really belongs to the Creator. I'm just created to extend the Creator's will. Father, what would be a groovy way to hang out this day?" So the meek are those that allow, that are in allowance, and that are quiet and silent, and their innocent self, and simply in tune with the will of the Creator. And then they allow and do the will of the Creator. So essentially, they're all Christ's, or they're all the meek, they're all awakened to their true nature and their oneness. And he brings up again the idea of the present moment, and that when you're making, you're never present. You're thinking of knowledge you've gained or learning you've gained from the past, or you're thinking about future plans and you're plotting and you're planning. That's making. When you're creating, you're fully in the present. You're a silent, empty conduit through which the love operates. The mind involved in making listens for the impulse of God, and then has a million reasons why that cannot be. And those reasons are always linked to learning that has occurred in the past, or anxiety about an imagined future. In other words, the mind of a maker is never present. It is caught up in the illusion of duality, not the reality of perfect oneness. One who knows is a creator, and a creator is empty of himself, that is, empty of the self that was made in error. The knower of reality is the presence of love, the spaciousness through which the creator extends its perfect will. It has no attachments and no illusions. It is not run by what other people think of it. It is not run by what it has accomplished in the past or what it perceives it must have in the future. I'm so grateful that the more I search and research and read different messages from spiritual masters and different texts, that really the truth is pretty simple. And the simpler you get, the closer you get to the truth, to God, the Creator, to Spirit, whatever you wish to call it. And when things become complex, you know it's drifting away from the truth. Really, it's pretty simple, right? The present moment, the only thing that is real is love, and that God is. And love is God. So that love is all things. And that love must be experienced in the present moment. He then shares a very important point, which is that your mind is already healed. You don't need to heal it. It doesn't need to be healed. It is already healed. What you need to do is accept the truth that is already healed. You need to accept the atonement, as Jeshua says. You must simply choose differently and choose to remember that you're already whole, that you're already one with all that is. Your mind is a mind that has been healed. You do not need to heal it. You only need to accept that healing has been accomplished by the grace of that love that birthed you to create. That is what I meant when I have said a teacher of God need only accept the atonement for themselves. I am already healed. Time to get on with it. He then shares, like in most of these lessons, an exercise that we can do to practice. And he asked us to say within our holy mind the following: My mind has already been healed by the grace that birthed me in its image. I need only use the power of that mind to choose the perfect peace of God. I do so now and forevermore. I am one who knows. Father, what would you create in this moment that is an extension of love? And do nothing but observe what comes into your mind, what feeling suddenly flows through the body. There, short exercise. A context to demonstrate how it all works. No magic, no pilgrimages, no special pills, no special diet, no special love affairs, nothing special at all. Simply the presence of mind. And rest assured, in that moment, if you are truly joining with it, you had no thought whatsoever that you are a separate ego who does not know God. You were that mind enjoined in the creative process itself. You were in your right-mindedness. And in that moment, you are the knower. And as a knower, you are free to have as many moments of that knowing as you want to experience. These lessons are available free online at womlibrary.com. And the audio recordings of the original channelings are available on his YouTube channel, on Jayem's YouTube channel, Way of Mastery Official. Thank you.